Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I promised you an updated crochet bow tutorial, so here it is. This is the perfect bow to wear in your hair, add it to a gift, or I just use it as a home decor because I have so many of these. The written pattern will be linked in the description, so grab yourself a copy and let's get started. You will need a sport weight yarn. Today I'm using Etrofil Jeans, 3.5mm hook, some stitch markers and a yarn needle. The red bow is made with Concept Ultra Soft yarn, which is a thinner sport weight yarn, and it gives the final bow more of a drapey feel, and I personally prefer this version to wear in my hair, but today I will be using the Etrofil Jeans, which is a thicker sport weight yarn, and the bow turned out to be a little more stiff, which can be perfect if you want it to hold its shape really well. Anyways, let's get started. Begin by making a slip knot, then chain 112 chains. Once you have your chain, we are going to work on the first row. Start by skipping the first 2 stitches, and then we will make a half double crochet decrease in the next 2 stitches. This means you will turn 2 stitches into 1. I like to do this by pulling up a loop in the first stitch, then pulling up a loop in the second stitch, yarning over and pulling the yarn through all the loops on the hook. There are other ways to do the decrease though, so feel free to use whichever method you're comfortable with. Next, make half double crochets all the way across the row. When you reach the last 2 stitches, do another half double crochet decrease to finish the row. So pull up a loop in the first stitch, then pull up a loop in the second stitch, then yarn over and pull the yarn through all the loops on the hook. Chain 2 and turn your work. Row 2 is the same as row 1, but you only work in the front stitches or front loops. But again, you start with half double crochet decrease, so pull up a loop in the first stitch, then pull up a loop in the second stitch, yarn over and pull the yarn through all the loops on the hook, and then half double crochet all across the row until 2 stitches are remaining, and then again make a half double crochet decrease, then chain 2 and turn your work. And the third row is again same as the other rows, but you only work in the back loops. So you start with half double crochet decrease, then half double crochet until 2 stitches are remaining in the row, and then again half double crochet decrease at the end of the row, and you do all this just in the back loops. Repeat rows 2 and 3, so crocheting into the front loop and then crocheting into the back loop until you have 9 rows in total, or until the bow is as wide as you want it. I did a total of 7 rows for this bow because this yarn is a little thicker. Now that the base is done, it's time to crochet the border to give it a clean edge. For this, I'm going to use slip stitches, which can be a little time consuming, so feel free to do a different kind of edging or just leave it without a border. We will make the border along the longest edge first. Make sure the right side is facing you and attach your yarn at the corner, then slip stitch in every stitch along this edge. After you are done with this row, chain 1 and turn your work. For the second row, you will slip stitch just in the back loops of the slip stitches you just did in the first row. So back loop, slip stitch along this edge, then chain 1 and turn your work. After you are done with the second row, chain 1 and turn your work. And the third row is exactly the same as the second row, so slip stitch just into the back loops. This is the finished edge. Now we will do the exact same thing along the rest of the bow. Start with chaining 1, then slip stitch first in the middle of the border, then right after the border, then make approximately 2 slip stitches for every half double crochet row. When you get to the corner, make 2 slip stitches into the corner and then just 1 slip stitch in every stitch along the shorter edge. Then again 2 slip stitches into the other corner and the same amount of slip stitches you did on the one slanted edge you should do on the other slanted edge. After you are done with this row, chain 1 and turn your work, then slip stitch only into the back loops for row 2, then chain 1 and slip stitch only into the back loops for row 3. Now let's fold the bow. I've linked a short video tutorial below, but I will guide you through it here. First, fold the bow in half with the wrong sides facing each other, then fold it in half again and use stitch markers to mark the fold line and then sew along this line. You can now try how your bow will look. So you can fold it like this with the stitch markers and you can see how long the tails will be and the loops will be, so you can adjust your stitch markers if you want anything differently. After you are happy with your stitch marker placement, you can sew along this line from one stitch marker to the other stitch marker. You can do this on the sewing machine or just do it by hand with the same yarn. Now align the middle of the loop with the sewn line and fold it like this, and then just tie it with yarn. Now for the final step, we will make the center of the bow. Start with chaining 15 or whatever chain is long enough to fit around the center of your bow. Then just slip stitch into every stitch. Then chain 1, turn your work and slip stitch in the back loop of every stitch so it's the same as the border. Please excuse my cat, she wanted to be in the background. Now that you are done with the center, just cut your yarn and now just tie the center around the center of the bow.